everybody? It's Aurelia Johnson, your favorite sociologist and the identity professor, founder of the OWN Project, and we are going live. We're going to do this real quick, simple, and sweet. I'm on live on Facebook and I'm on live on Instagram, and we're going to talk about gender. So let me say this. It is extremely important when we're talking about gender that we understand that everybody has a philosophical orientation. That's number one, right? Hey, Nico, what's up, baby? Everybody has a philosophical orientation. You may not call it a philosophical orientation. You may not, thank you. You may not use that kind of language, but everybody got a lens and how they looking at the world, right? So either you are an absolutist, you practice absolutism, you look at things in absolutes. You think that things are very concrete. You say that, this is what it is. There's only one truth. If you believe that there's only one truth, you probably are an absolutist, right? Hey, Mom. If you are a person that believes that there are multiple truths in the universe and it depends, the truth, it depends on your position, that means that you probably are a relativist, right? And so when you're talking about gender, when you're having conversations with people about gender, you're probably coming from one of these orientations, but you didn't know that you were coming from that orientation because you don't use that kind of language. So that's number one. Okay. Number two, as I am going through gender, I want you to put comments. I want you to like this. I want you to share this. What's up, Nikki? I want you to like this. I want you to share this live. And I want you to put as many comments down at the bottom as possible because I want to have a conversation. You may not agree with what I'm saying, but it is important that we have this kind of discourse because a lot of conversations are taking place about gender right now. And I think it's a really good thing. I'm excited about that. I just become fearful when conversations veer off to the left or they become vitriolic or abusive or derogatory, and they're not conducive to anything positive. Okay, now, so let me say this. Number one, gender is an ideology. It is based on the ritualized practice of ideas. Gender is a system. Gender is a means of controlling behavior. Gender is the parameters that have been treated as if they were concrete and immovable, because we look at people as categories. In particular, we look at gender as two distinct and separate categories. Gender is, when you're talking about ideologically, it's male and female. So you have a penis equals boy, a vagina equals girl. So ideology, according to Althusser, is an imaginary assemblage. It is a pure dream, empty and vain, constituted by the residues of only full positive reality of the concrete history of the concrete. What does that mean? It means that it has something to do with, or it predicts the material realities that people live in, right? So when you're talking about the physical body, when it comes to gender, you're talking about the concrete physiological features that are then assigned to maleness and femaleness. Number one, we need to understand that gender should be separate and distinct from sexuality, even though gendered bodies have sex with each other. When you limit gendered bodies, that means that they can't be on a spectrum. So this whole concept and notion of gender being a binary, that's not true. Number two, gender is interactional. It is something that you do with other people. When I say do, I'm talking about Candace West and Don Zimmerman's understanding of gender as a performance. And we understand this performance based off of stereotypes. So we go back to Garfinkel. Garfinkel talks about gender, and he looks at this woman named Agnes. And Agnes presented herself and performed as a woman. Well, what Garfinkel figured out is that Agnes was not a biological woman. That Agnes actually was born as a man. And so then Garfinkel had to go back and reconceptualize or rethink how he was looking at gender. Because then he said, well, damn, if she's able to perform gender and do gender or femininity in a way that's unquestionable, it lets me know that gender is an actual activity. It's something that we do. It's something that we perform. It's something that we accomplish. Gender is also a status. Gender is ascribed, and then gender is achieved. An ascribed status is something that you inherit. It is something that you give at birth. So the other day when there was questions about assigning a gender, that's just not for intersex bodies. It's also for anybody who is born in a hospital. Somebody assigns you a gender. Because we have never thought about gender as being a choice, and it is kind of like concrete or traditional. Now, you may not concretely make a choice, but a choice is being made for you. If you believe in a gender tradition or you believe in a gender binary, then that choice is already ascribed. Gender is also achieved. For people who have been given a gender or assigned a gender at birth, they make a choice whether they're going to live as a cisgendered person, or they're going to live as a transgender person, or they're going to live as gender non-conforming or gender non-binary. Now, if you think about Erving Goffman's theory of dramaturgy, Goffman says that a person is validated when they are able to convince the audience that they are what they are performing, right? Gender is also a social construct. It is a hypothetical. It's something that we treat as real. Now, gender itself as the construct has real material consequences. So when people look at gender in the physical, they're looking at it in the physiological manner of how the body is showing up. You can have the physical presentation of maleness as it has been assigned, or femaleness as it has been assigned. You can be chromosomally a male and not have male parts. You can be chromosomally a female and not have female parts. Because if we're looking at how the body forms in the uterus, genitalia essentially is the same thing when it's forming in the womb. If you're looking at the anatomy of the clitoris, it's anatomically similar, damn near the same as a penis. It has a hood, it has a head, and it has a shaft. What does the penis have? A hood, if the kid is not circumcised, a head, and a shaft. Does that make sense? If you're looking at the testicles when it's formulating in the uterus, the testicles, when they're there, everything is there. So if it's a girl, then the ovaries go up. If it is a boy, then the testicles drop down. The penis elongates itself, and the hole that would be the vaginal opening closes. Does that make sense? So is this something we even really need to state at all? Or should we just wait and let people decide? I think that it really depends on the family. So it really depends on what your family structure is and how you decide that you want to interact with gender. The reason why I'm doing this video is because there's so much going on, especially with Zaya Wade, right? So we know Zaya because she's Dwayne Wade's daughter. That's why we know Zaya. I'm very happy about Zaya being as courageous and brave as she is with coming out and saying these things out to the public, and her mom and dad supporting her. I think that's like amazing. And then it also like opens up the conversation and discourse about gender, so we're not being as discriminatory or prejudicial when it comes to people who decide to do gender differently. I think gender is an individual thing, and as people we have to learn how to accept people and how they decide to show up in life. But we also have to have a very honest conversation about toxic masculinity, because that also showed up when this child decided that she was going to live as herself, present as herself, identify as herself. There was a lot of vitriolic conversation that was thrown in her direction and in her parents' direction that I think comes from not only fear, but this need to hold on to something that individuals have felt like that they necessarily haven't had. We want to make sure that we stay connected. So in order to do that, we need you to give us a thumbs up, like our page, comment below, let us know what other content you want to know about, what other sociological ideas that you want us to be able to talk back and forth with, and make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get a notification every time we upload new content.